Bonsoir, comment ça va?
It's really nice to see you, Bryan. Can you hear us?
Nice to see you too. I'm just setting up our so I can hear you.
All right.
There.
Okay.
Okay. And so I don't have a painting coming out of my head.
Is this your house?
There
Are
we
we in
are.
your house?
You're at my house. Welcome to my house.
Okay, so welcome to Paris. We are with journalists and bloggers from France, and we are all very happy to see you tonight because you are so popular here in France. So thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we have, they are all eager to ask you some questions. So maybe if I have one, maybe can you tell us about your part in Dalton Trumbo? Was it a famous character that you knew before you entered into the movie, or?
It was a character that I was familiar with from a basic standpoint, in the sense that I knew he was a Hollywood screenwriter, that he wrote Spartacus, that he was one of the so-called Hollywood 10. I didn't remember that he actually went to prison, and I've forgotten the other movies that he had written, like The Brave One, and the other films. I'm just blanking right now, sorry. But so I had to do a lot of research on that end to it, to figure out who the man was, and to get his sensibility. So I was fortunate enough to be able to talk to his daughters, who are still alive and well, and other people who knew him. And then there are 2 biographies written about him, and a certain amount of video and audio tapes that helped me get a sense of his tonal qualities and things like that, and that was very helpful.
All right. Okay, une question?
Je vais bien commencer. I wonder how Jay Rush, I'm here. How Jay Rush helped you, because he's very good in politics, and he did the documentary about the election in the United States. How did he help you to understand the context of the movie?
Well, the best of all worlds is when your writer and your director and your actor can come together as a triumvirate and pull all their creative and ambitions together. The curiosity that we have, the desire to create an honest piece of work, set us all on a pathway to do as much research as we can. But with every storytelling, whether you're on stage or whether you're making a film, there's a certain amount of theatrical license that is necessary to truncate the storylines over the course of however many years, to take characters and into an amalgamation and reduce the amount of characters so that it's clearer to the audience who people are and what they represent. So those decisions are really the toughest. The fun part is doing the research and looking into Hollywood history at that time and what the sensibility was in America at that time, and Europe for that matter, that what used to be our allies in communist Russia was now on a different track than appeals to any enlightened diplomatic sensible country, and that the word these who were recently helped the Allies to defeat Hitler are now in their own right a cause for concern and alarm. And so now in America anyway, there was this new Red Scare that permeated everything, and the government took upon itself to be the judge and jury to determine what is acceptable behavior and what is not acceptable behavior. And it was a dark period in our history when these 10 men specifically went to prison knowingly not committing a crime. It's one thing to have someone go to prison who was falsely accused of a crime. It's another thing to have men who were accepted to have not committed any crime and still sent to prison. That's the story we were telling here. Jay Roach is a terrific director. I did another movie with him after Trumbo, and I'm very excited about another opportunity to work with him again, because we challenge each other, we encourage each other, we help each other along the way, and it's really a great team.
Cool, thank you. We have another question.
Hello. Just right.
Bonsoir.
At the end we have this great speech by Dalton Trumbo. Of course, you studied the character in order to act. Do you think, as in the movie, Helen goes and tell him just before he dies that Dalton is doing all of that just for himself, just for his job, just for money, and not really for every other people, every other screenwriters? Do you think at the end of the movie that Dalton won for himself, for his job, for screenwriting, for other screenwriters, or something else maybe? Thank you.
The end of the movie, the speech at the end was largely taken from transcripts from the Writers Guild Laurel Awards that he did receive at the conclusion of the blacklist, and it gave him an opportunity to express himself as he truly felt. And though he personally had a natural humanistic release of his anger and his resentment, he felt that at that time it wouldn't be productive. So his speech was largely an olive branch offering to those who either agreed with him, disagreed with him, to try to start the healing process, as opposed to continuing with the name calling or placing blame or venting his own personal anger. He was criticized for that speech, even by his wife, who thought that let the people who created this great mess, he let them off the hook by not calling them on the carpet and saying, "This is what you did, this is what you created, how dare you, shame on you." Instead, he took that point of view that everyone involved was victimized, and there were no heroes and villains, and only victims. And he did that on that purpose, to try to create a sense of an aftermath of let's never forget this, but let's try to move on from here and go on with our lives.
Thank you.
Hi, Bryan. My name is Jules. One time I heard you said after Breaking Bad production, don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened. And I would like to know, after this production from this movie, after all this performance, will you say the same thing? And maybe you want to to tell us about the after work?
Yeah, I do. I'm personally a person who likes to have an experience, and the older I get, the less material things that I'm interested in and more experiential. I have also a saying that I think you would appreciate. Don't save that really nice bottle of wine for some special occasion. Now is the special occasion. And, you know, I recognize that we live in a world that is ephemeral, and instead of trying to push away from that, I embrace that live for now, enjoy these moments, enjoy your friends, you know, celebrate and also commiserate together when it's called for. So my experience on Breaking Bad was that I had 6 years of a wonderful experience telling a very unique story, and then it's time and experience telling this story about Dalton Trumbo and the Hollywood 10 and the Red Scare in America at the time is wonderful. That's the great thing about being an actor, and I think that journalists such as yourself share in that as well, is that we are able to then quench our curiosity by doing the research, looking into certain aspects of life that we may not have known before. And by virtue of the fact that I'm going to play a character, I need to be able to immerse myself into that world and find out everything I can about the man and the times and the sentiment and the social acceptance and where it is and at what time in history it is. And so do you. I mean, you get to tap into that, you get that experience, and then you're on to something else, on to the next story. And I'm in that same ilk, is that I enjoy that variety of experience.
Hi, Mr. Cranston. What do you think your movie finds some echoes in Americans today's society in a good or in a bad way?
The question again?
Do you think the subject of the movie finds some echoes in American society today in a good or in a bad way?
Yes, good point. Well, in America, as you may know, right now, politically, we're going through a revolution of sorts. One that certainly I haven't seen in my lifetime, and maybe not in the last 100 years, where we have polarizing characters who are representing different thoughts and ideologies. And in a general sense, I think it's good, because it gets people's attention, and their investment in their own government is a good thing. Specifically, I am not of the ilk to support someone who is so egocentric and narcissistic, like Donald Trump, who by some way has been able to manage to get through his apparent message to a certain amount of people. But I have confidence that logic and common sense will end up ruling the day, and he will not become our president. So if that was any fear of yours, I think you can be assuaged of that concern.
Hi, Bryan. I'm here. First of all, thank you for playing the father who has seen me grow up in Malcolm, and the professor of chemistry that made me discover how a TV show could be a masterpiece. You have directed, produced, and written TV shows episode. What side of camera do you prefer to be? And Dalton Trumbo was a way to celebrate your other jobs, not only acting.
Boy, I'm trying to decipher that question. If I understood it correctly, is a comment about Breaking Bad? Is that true?
Yeah. No. John's.
Wow.
So he was wondering which side of the camera you prefer, because you directed, you written some episodes of Breaking Bad, and in Dalton Trumbo you only acted, so is it something that you prefer, or do you want to do more in the near future?
I do like directing. To me it's harder than acting in many ways, but very rewarding in its own right. As an actor, you only need to focus on what your character wants, what your character is after, who's helping your character achieve that, who's in your way, and that sort of thing. So it's very, very self-contained in your self-interest. And a director has to think of all those things, all the character's interests, and as well as the technical aspect of where to place the camera, or the pacing of the storytelling. Think about what kind of music you'd want to have to enhance the emotional impact of any given scene. To be a director, you need to enjoy massive puzzles and very difficult conditions in order to make sure you put that puzzle together. You know how you have a jigsaw puzzle you look at the box and there's a picture of the puzzle that you're going to put together? A director has to be able to do that without looking at the picture. It's just all in your head of how you're going to move the pieces around. And it's quite challenging, but a lot of fun. I look forward to going back and forth between directing and acting.
Hello, Bryan. I know it wasn't exactly the subject of this particular movie, but do you think that people as actors, artists in general, actually do have real power over the political field, and should they be given this power, and how do you think they should use it?
I think the one responsibility that an artist has is to be true to yourself, and present, when you're working, to present your art form as honestly as possible. It doesn't mean that you need to become a mentor or a role model, or that you need to take steps into trying to influence people politically or anything. There's not that requirement. I don't think that's fair upon someone. It is in many societies acceptable and encouraged for those who are in the public eye to be able to present themselves and their opinions on things, and I think that's fair. It is also the case that someone who has some fame gets more attention in their opinions than someone who doesn't. I don't know if that's fair or not, but as long as you're in that position, I think the best thing that anyone who has been very fortunate into making a living and having a measure of fame that secures your livelihood, I think is charity more than political. I think it's time to then give back to a community or to an environment a cause that is important to you. And so that's where I choose to focus my attention mostly, is to take some of this attention that's coming my way and focusing it on issues that is for the greater good.
Thank you. Hi. You told us that you met Dalton Trumbo's daughters. So I wanted to know, how do you think the relationship with his daughters impacted him, and if they liked the movies?
Yeah, that's a little nerve-wracking, because you're going to play a character who they know very well from their own history, and they're trepidatious about it, and you're anxious about doing that. And I told the women who have become friends that I have no intention of doing an impersonation of your father, and but I would appreciate your help so that I can present a sensibility of him that is honest and that you remember. And by making myself open and vulnerable to that, and confessing that I needed their help, they were willing to help and help tremendously, not just for me in helping to structure the character, but also in the script itself, and giving notes on certain aspects of the script that they thought were either not in the timeline that we were presenting it, or were not exactly accurate, and so we made adjustments along the way. It was very helpful, and but that must be, daunting for someone to see on the big screen your life before you, and you see your parents being depicted by two actors, and it must be difficult to get over that sensation. But they were very kind and very helpful.
It's silly after that, but as a fan of Breaking Bad, I was wondering if you see Better Call Saul, and if you did see it, what would you think about the show?
Would you repeat that again, please?
Did you have the time to see Better Call Saul, the new show, the new Vince Gilligan show? And if you did, what do you think about it? Okay.
I can hear you better now. Yes, I have seen Better Call Saul, and I really enjoy it. It, for me, watching it, there is a familiarity to seeing the city of Albuquerque and the surroundings. Some characters that, of course, are familiar from Breaking Bad, and a tonal experience that is familiar. But yet the stories are just different. It's not wrapped around Walter White. It's about Saul Goodman, Jimmy McGill. And so I'm able then to enjoy it from a fresh perspective, and leave it at that. And I tell all my friends, including Vince Gilligan, when I see him, I said, please don't tell me anything, don't tell me anything. I want to be able to experience it as a fan, as opposed to an insider. So I see it pretty much the same way you would see it, fresh. And I enjoy it. I like the show a lot.
Hello. I would like to know, what do you think? Do you think the Hollywood 10 changes something in Hollywood industry?
Do I think the Hollywood 10, sorry? Again?
Do you think what did the Hollywood 10 changing something in Hollywood industry?
How it would affect on the Hollywood industry now?
No, do you think that what they did changed something now? That it changed the things? What they did back then?
Has it changed things? Yes. It used to be in those days, that Hollywood was pretty much divided equally among conservative and liberal thinkers. That's changed dramatically to a heavily liberal-minded. But I think in general, creative people, it's not a rule, but and I have no bearing of any proof to this, but it just seems to me that by and large, more creative people happen to be more liberal, more accepting, more open to experiences or different ways of life and tolerant. And yes, I do happen to think of things. But what I hope changes in my country's politics is that right now we have a sense that if someone disagrees with you, that they're the enemy, and that's not how it is. We need to maintain respect and openness to a person's opinion who happens to be opposite of what yours is. That they also intend the best things for their country or city government or whatever. It's just that they have a different opinion of how to go about it. And I think it's wrong to categorize someone who disagrees with you as an enemy, as a villain. And that's what's sort of become the structure in American politics, and it's really ineffective and unfortunate.
Maybe last one more question.
Hi. You said in that story there are not good person and villains, but only victims. Do you think it's possible for the audience to have the same feeling for someone like Ada or John Wayne, and someone like Robinson or Elia Kazan? Robinson and Elia Kazan was just a weak person, but Ada Hooper or John Wayne was very convinced by their ideas. Do you think it's possible to have the same feeling about all that person?
I do. I think in retrospect, when you look back at that period, and of course now we have the benefit of time, and time has healed these wounds considerably. At the time, I must confess, I may feel differently if I was in it, if I was directly victimized by the blacklist, of course. But in trying to look at it objectively and in a positive way, what was the benefits that came out of it? I would think that everyone would have a right to make amends. Some of the people who testified and named names went to their graves without apology, and okay, that's all right. Some did apologize for their activities and how they cooperated or with the investigation. To me, it had, the whole point is that Dalton Trumbo could have lied on the first question. And the first question was, are you now or have you ever been a member of the Communist Party? He could have said, yes, I was, and it was a decision I made when I was a young person and I was foolish. And the committee would have said, all right, we'll accept that answer as long as you disavow the American Communist Party from here on. Yes, I do. I disavow. Okay. That's fine. But unfortunately, the committee doesn't stop there. It insisted on answering the next question. And the next question was, all right, we accept that. Who else was a member of the American Communist Party? Name the names of the people who were at meetings. who you heard talking about being a member of the Communist Party. We want the names. And if you're not cooperative with giving the names, you are then, again, susceptible to imprisonment and being found in contempt of Congress, which was the actual name of the charge. And that's the point that I think I would draw the line and say, I might be willing to tell you a lie, and so that I don't have to go to prison, so that I can continue making a living to support my family. But I'm not going to put other people in jeopardy because of your overreaching of your imperialistic power. And that's where I believe I would draw the line. In effect, isn't that tactic very much like what the Gestapo used in going door to door and saying, who is talking about anti-government? Where are you hiding the Jews? If it's not you, who is doing that? I don't want to equate that the blacklist in Hollywood was as bad as that, obviously. But the tactic has a familiar, unfortunate ring to it. And they wanted people to point the finger at their neighbor and say, I'm not a communist, but he is. Take him away. Take away his dignity and his ability to make a living and his personal freedoms, but don't take mine. And it's a dark, dark time when a society, especially a so-called enlightened society, approves of that behavior. And that's what happened. And it's unfortunate, but hopefully that'll never happen again.
Good evening, Bryan. First, thank you for your impressive performance of Dalton Trumbo. I'm sorry, but I have to ask. Aaron Paul said he really wants to be part of Better Call Saul. So my question is, will you shave your head and be back as Walter White?
Well, if you know, Better Call Saul is a prequel to Breaking Bad, so that it happened before he had a shaved head. So the second part of your question, no, I don't have to shave my head. The first part of your question, yes, I would be a part of it. Vince Gilligan and Breaking Bad changed my life and gave me opportunities I would not have had otherwise. I'm deeply grateful for that. So yeah, and if Vince Gilligan called me today and said, I want you to be on the show, I would say yes before he finished asking the question. So far, that has not happened. So we'll just see how it plays out. But I enjoy the show and very fortunate the way things worked out.
Great, thank you very much. I think it's the last question. Can you say something in French, maybe, to end up this little chat?
Au revoir, merci beaucoup.
Thank